Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our different lives. We are live on two pages. We are live on the Wake Up page as well as on the Fatima Abdul page. So, Conell, you can greet your people.
Yeah, I'm actually live on my personal Facebook
Oh,
page,
okay.
so it'll be a completely different crowd. But some of those who are friends with me on Facebook, they would log in, and people from England, my football players, and other
Yay.
friends.
So let's just hear the sound. If the sound is can everyone hear us on live? I think everyone can hear us here in the studio. So we are actually launching the book called Love's Revolution. So we've got triple things happening here. We've got a live audience. Can everybody in the studio just clap hands and give us some love? So guys, we're not lying to you. We are really live, and there's people in the studio. And then we're also recording on our different pages, and we are also on a podcast. The podcast is called Is It? So As It is a vision that happened long time ago. It was first a magazine, but it transformed into a podcast. And this is my first interview for the podcast, Is It? And I felt it is necessary to launch it with love.
Thank you. Feel honored.
Gershon, can we continue? Okay. Nou gaan ek nou formeel raak.
See how long you can keep it up.
Conell, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. Jy's 'n kind van die huis af. You are from the motherland, from South Africa, but you're finding yourself in the UK. And you wrote this book, and that is why you are back here to launch the book and also just to connect with people, jou mense here in South Africa. The first question, I think it is the most common question that you will probably hear in all the interviews is, why did you write the book?
So I hadn't thought about that, but now I'm drawing from what I have put into the introduction as to the title of the book says Love's Revolution. It's just that we have gone through many revolutions in our lives of which we've participated. As I said on the radio earlier today, is that underneath all of these revolutions was a cry for a redirection of the moral status in which we found ourselves as a community and society. Now, in the book, I address also those moral authorities which we live by, external influences, and those which are existing within us. So I wrote this book because I can see that there is a need for emphasis that elements of care and kindness, which are parts of love, needs to feature as supreme activities within our conscience, reflecting in what we do in society.
Okay, so we started from where we are at right now, so we're going to reverse and go right back. Tell us about the young Conell, how he grew up, what formed that Conell. Let's talk about the 8-year-old Conell.
The 8-year-old Conell is as one that experiences things, saw things around him, had internal questions which I couldn't quite articulate, but had a sense and a feeling that what I saw around me wasn't okay, but I had no words to articulate it. And also that which I experienced as being harmful to myself at the time, but I couldn't articulate it as harmful. It appeared to be the norm, but my system said, this is not okay. And as I grew up later, I found means to articulate it. That was not okay.
What was not okay?
Living in the circumstances that I did, the environment I grew up in, it was later years that I came to understand that as poverty. Later years that I came to understand that as not being my parents' choice, let alone my choice to grow up in circumstances like that, and having seen others having completely different circumstances, and had me develop this internal question, why?
There's a character that, or a person that you, as it's Sibiso, the child that, or the person that you saw, but he grows.
Stebo.
Stebo.
Yes.
You compared your life with Stebo's life. What was the comparison? I'm trying to find out what, because there's certain things that I can identify with, but we want to hear about your story, the political atmosphere, and how it impacted your life personally. Die kind daar in Beaufort West PE. Why did you move from PE to Beaufort West? What was the scenario?
Yeah, the movements at the time, having been born in Port Elizabeth, not that I knew I was born, I was told I was born there. And having seen and experienced those circumstances, and then having to travel quite a lot, and what I put in the book, having found myself growing up in amongst different families. One time I would be amongst my cousins and the language is Xhosa. And then next thing, we're on the train and I wake up and, okay, what's the setup here? Afrikaans. Okay, so trigger that and speak. And then mum is there, and then the next day she's not there. And hence, I had eventually found myself in Beaufort West, temporarily to permanently, eventually, which is what I talk about, that I grew up in Beaufort West. I had actually, for a short period of time, come to live in Johannesburg, in Eldorado Park, Extension 10.
Okay.
That's what I remember from my childhood. And again, come here and I saw children my age, but they spoke English, and that was a bit confusing. I don't understand. So have I got to do this now? So, and then from there, I didn't really enjoy or focus on what was going on at school. I do remember the playtimes. And then we moved to Soweto, Meadowlands, Zone 7. That's what I remember. And it was Xhosa and Zulu every day. And to the point where I said, I don't want to go travel from Meadowlands to Baragwana and then another bus back and forth every day. It was physically exhausting, but also mentally exhausting, to the point where I kicked up a fuss and I told my mum, I don't want to go to school. How I told her was, I just refused to go to school that one day. And I got a little hiding for that.
Good.
Yes.
Thank goodness for mum. You might not agree with it, but I think you wouldn't have been where you are right now, because you became a nurse later on. What made you decide to choose that path?
As a form, actually, that career came as a response of a rebellion.
Oh.
Because I originally, always, you can ask my classmates whom I grew up with at school, and I always used to draw myself as a lawyer, and that's what I wanted to be. That's what I wanted to go. And I drew myself, and I recall standing on a set of stairs with my hand on a banister, and saw myself as a lawyer. And it wasn't until my mum then came, you can say, that chokes me up whenever I talk about my mum, because when she then came to say to me, you've got to become a lawyer, and as a response of rebellion, I won't do what you tell me. And
why?
That was all I know. I came to learn later that it was actually, I have learned not to trust my mum, and it was this repressed sense of contempt for her. Not that I intended to, but it is the experiences of my life that has actually built this implicit bias and very slowly these subconscious. So I reacted and said, I won't do what you tell me to do. And hence, I went in nursing because the teacher came in there. I remember this teacher because all of us were going to become lawyers in our class. And he walked around. And for those of you who, if you can't get into university and there is nursing and they pay you to study. And I said, oh, what? You get paid to study because to become a lawyer, you pay to become
a lawyer.
And I thought, that suits me because my people don't have money. 44,000 rands a year. I've never seen those figures except in my Viscount, the mathematics book. That's it. It's just big numbers. But when they said that's how much money it costs to train, I thought, this is impossible. So that was perfect. And I was the only one in my class accepting that booklet because everyone else looked down and said, yeah, I came back, and the girls from the middle class, they suddenly wanted to talk to me.
Oh, okay.
I thought I'm going to be a Murphy. Didn't turn out a Murphy. And actually, there's truth in that because it was when I came back a year later, I remember Hans and Quentin, they literally, oh, Lori. Huh? That's all right. But I know what they were saying.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, they started asking me for those application forms. For real.
And there's actually such a big need for male nurses because there's certain things that the females can't do that males can do. Can I tell you something? This is just from my side. I understand that rebellion towards a very strict mother and a mother that makes you think that you don't have a voice. But in hindsight, I understand why she did what she did. I rebelled because she wanted me to become a nurse. And I said, no, I will not become a nurse. I want to be an actress.
How
And then
interesting.
she said, "Das ek kan dit so by TV nie, vir wat wil jy 'n actress word?" But I became it. So I think the lesson from that journey is that in the end, you become or you are directed in the path that you should be. God takes detours. So your GPS is being rerouted the whole time because you are supposed to go in a certain way, but then we decide this way, because later on you did study law.
Yes, because then I thought, all right, you can make your own decisions, man. Right? So I went in because I was genuinely interested, because I've always found myself in a position where people would come to me for help and support, even at work there in England, where people were just dictated upon. They made out their shift patterns and all that. They did that to me as well, but I didn't work based on a rota that they made out. And so every other nurse wanted to know, well, Conell, why aren't you working based on the shift that they... I said, because I said to them, my contract states 37.5 hours per week. It doesn't tell me which days to work. So I can choose any of those days to work, and that's what I said to them. If you make out, I was quite obnoxious, I think, to a point, because I had this sense of rebellion. Anyone trying to dictate to me, then it brings out, then I become very pedantic. Yeah, and I'd say, all right, let's sit down. Here's my contract. And I said, there's 7 days in this week, and it's Monday to Sunday. Those 37.5 hours could be across any of those. And furthermore, in my contract, it says I can work day and nights. So there is also a policy that says family-friendly policy. I have a family now, and these are the days and times that Michelle works. So I shall work on the days that she does not, and I shall discuss with her, not for you to interfere in our family life. If you make out that rota without consulting me, I shall call in sick. And that's what I did. Seriously, I did. I'd call in sick. They can hear it, and they know. That's what. And then when they asked me that you had a return, you come back to work, and then they back to work after sickness absence, you had to fill in a form. You had to give the reasons as to why you're sick. I always wrote private. It's private. But then when my manager, Ashley, when she finally did come to speak to me about it, she couldn't speak to me direct. And someone else told me later, oh, they felt it. No, it was Ashley herself that said, because she brought the chief of nursing into this meeting that they wanted to talk to me about my sickness absence. So the two of them sat there and I was alone. And I thought, hold on a minute. I took out this mighty old big phone, the Nokia that I had. It flips open like a computer. And they said, what are you doing? I said, I'm making notes. But since I want to focus on you, I think I'm going to record us all. And then so the chief of nursing then said to my manager, all right, do you want to start this? So she starts telling me they wanted to talk to me about my sickness absence and all of that. I already knew they wanted to talk. I just asked them to get that on record. So she complained about me being off sick for, it was about 6 weeks in total. And then when they were done, I then said to her, well, the dates that you've given me, I've looked at those dates and I've gone into the archives for those dates period, and I note that you yourself were off sick for exactly the same amount of days that I was. And I would like to put this there, who speaks to you? And before you answer, there's two of you here. You told me what we're coming to do, sickness absence policy, according to the policy, is between you and me. And your letter that you wrote to me is actually quite threatening. You're threatening to sack me. The objective of this policy is to see how you can help me. The meeting ended, not kidding you. A week later, I got a letter. They're no longer proceeding with this meeting. And all other staffs ceased as well. And hence, from that moment is when people kept coming to me. And I thought, I think I should go and study law then. I would quite like this. Yeah.
And that's how the lawyer was born. I first want to backtrack because there's a question in my mind. What made you move from South Africa to the UK?
The money.
Okay, that's short and sweet.
And the social circumstances I saw. There was one particular morning where I was working in Lentegeur Clinic, Cape Town City Council, and every morning I went to work. That picture is stuck in my head. There was a lot of people in the morning, but there was one that stuck out. It was a girl with a child in the pram. It was cold. It was early morning. It was cold. That did something to me, and I said, "This isn't right. This isn't right." And I looked around when you're constantly having to look, at your back. We borrowed our landlord's car and the hubcaps were stolen in full view of the police.
And that was how many years ago?
1996.
It's worse now.
1996, yeah, back then. And so I had my own views, and then I looked at, the other thing was, made a quick personal assessment of the political situation, and I thought, something just doesn't feel right about this. And I saw about the, this revolution thing, and I thought, well, it seems like people of black ethnicity is now on top, and the people of white ethnicity is now, and we like the sandwich filler, and so I don't want to be that. I'm leaving. I'm heading out. And I said to Michelle, we're going. Let's go. I said, oh, should we tell everyone? No. We don't need anyone's permission. So that's, again, the rebellion in me. I'm going. We're going. And so I said, we'll only tell people in the last week just before we go. And we just went to say goodbye. They tried to say, what do you mean you're going to abroad? Yeah, who does that? Well, I said, I do. And that's what I did. Yeah, but you can't. I said, I'm not here for your permission. I'm just here to say goodbye. That's it.
Jy sê dan, stubborn, eh? Strong-willed. Thank you. Thank you. Because of that journey, it's almost like you've come full circle. But you still have to carry on. It's people that goes against the grain, people that questions the norm, people that questions the status quo, that actually brings about the change and changes the trajectory of the course or the direction of what everyone else is doing. One of the themes that you have in your book is racism, sommer so blaatant. What brought about that specific
element of racism?
Yeah.
Yes. As an outflow of this sense of rebellion and perhaps anger within me, I've also later learned quite a lot. And through the church, I've learned about compassion. And I've read the Bible and listened to the minister speaking. And this might be the first time you ever hear this. I was a priest too.
Don't lie.
Yes.
For real.
For real, for real. So, yes, that's news, breaking news right now. Yes, I was a priest too. And so I took that quite serious actually. So I felt, the more I read, and I found that Jesus was quite serious. And the more I learned, I realized that compassion is needed. So as a response to that of what my mom had done to me, I started doing some deep digging into myself. And that's another story. I went to look for my mom. I found her eventually, but as it is to date, she doesn't want to be found. But then as for racism, I also started looking at racism because I've experienced encounters in England, and I looked at why I was living in the socio-economic circumstances that I did here. And I looked at that, and but then here I'm a priest and I'm also a nurse, and I see people. And I thought, I'm seeing people. So I don't believe in this, that I am somehow less on the grounds of color of my skin, or that person is, because I've seen people in varieties of ethnicity and I saw some similarities. Biopsychosocially. I saw a lot of that, and I thought, okay, is this then really racism? What is racism really? What is it really? And it is late last year when finally it hit me. Not just late last year, it was because in England when we were doing some protest there, and I was asked to speak, and I figured out racism as it is defined, that it is some prejudice based on the color of your skin. I then looked at South Africa. Well, the previous government was people of white ethnicity exercising prejudice against everybody else. And so, okay, but we've now got it quite reversed. People of black ethnicity being in the local management of South African politics, but they're still complaining about racism. When I say they, I'm talking about people in general society, even voiced within government circles. I'm thinking, so I thought they came in to end racism. That was the narrative and understanding, but it's still prevalent. But then there is also, and as I raised there, that there is anecdotal concerns and complaints of reverse racism. So I thought, okay, I looked at some of the legislation that there is. Apartheid laws and racism based on what the original definition supported was then laws were scrapped. So legislatively, that was cancelled. And again, as I say, there's a moral motivation behind it. But then I looked at, all right, so why did the people in the first place practice this? And so, for what? Because if they didn't like black or brown people, what would they come in here for then?
Because this is where we are.
And then they took some of them with them
Yeah.
to go and work. If you didn't like them, you wouldn't want them around you. Stay in your own country. Then, okay, so that doesn't make sense. I said, oh, what were the motivating factors? As resources. That is it. So, thinking about it, racism, think of the word race.
The rush.
Race.
Race, yeah.
And all of that activity as racism. Now you might be lost there for a moment, but consider why the convenient genius, evil genius, was later to separate people. The separation was to ensure advantage, disproportionate advantage and access to resources necessary for human living and existence. So, and I thought, okay, now let's look at 1994 and currently in the African National Congress and everything that they promised they were going to do, but racism, what's happening? Oh, they're now just making sure that they have advantage of the resources. Okay, so racism really is a competitive economic struggle between groups of people, regardless of race.
Regardless of the color
For
of their skin.
power and wealth, control over resources. That's what racism really is. But as long as they can keep you focused on the Oxford Dictionary definition of what that is, you're going to be adversarial and all of that. And I realize the reason why love has never survived, because if love was to be given the attention and priority that it deserves in our lives and in our communities, none of this would happen, because you couldn't claim to be believing in love when you're treating other people with disdain, when you're ensuring only your own advantage. Just go read Corinthians first. Love does not seek its own advantage. So if I have love in me and I believe in love, if I want to associate myself with love, or if I claim to love God and my neighbor as myself, it's not or, and, then I need to apply myself to that. But it's inconvenient when I'm greedy.
Correct. So you cannot love and also be selfish at the same time. Just think of what you can gain from
Doesn't work.
something.
So that's racism, really. Racism. And hence I brought that forward. Because in the compassion that I found, and I found myself better aligned, I couldn't, because I spoke and live, and to this day, with people of white ethnicity, people of black ethnicity, whatever. And you will recall in our live sessions that I always would say to you, there's no such thing as a black person.
Yeah.
Is a person who happens to be of black ethnicity.
Yes.
Always a person first, and of white ethnicity. Those other things are accessories, unnecessary.
Which separates us. Absolutely. So, the church, I'm now not talking about the buildings, the church. What happened that we as a country, and we always talk about it, we as a country that is supposed to be 85%?
80%.
80% of Christian religion that is now governed by an almost non-Christian government. How did that happen? I always ask myself, even when I'm sitting in government meetings and so on, I'm asking myself, how is it possible that I'm sitting in a building where people proclaim to be of Christian religion, and we don't even acted in government.
That is, I wouldn't even say hot topic because it's completely cold. It's unaddressed. It's cold. It's a bit like hell. People think hell is such a hot place. No, it's actually quite a cold place. You need to take your own fire. That's why people can't bear it there. They make fire.
Yeah.
And to stay alive. I've never been to hell, but
just a disclaimer
or
there.
this other hell that they're talking about. But I talked to in the book and showed you that hell, we're experiencing it as it is. Now, as for church and its religious message, that topic is suppressed. It's a no-go area. I deliberately go there because it's like an elephant in a room and everybody says, I can't see, but I don't know why. It's the elephant. Church and state is separated for a reason.
People even say, don't bring religion into politics.
That's what they'll tell you.
Yes.
That's what they'll tell you. Because religion, with its message and orientation of love, is inconvenient to politics. Because politics is where laws are derived, and those laws, when you see, they always are written to the advantage of some and the disadvantage of others. And that is, and when you look at, as we spoke earlier on, the Constitution speaks beautifully. Such a lovely Constitution.
Yes, the
South
British
Africa belongs to all who live in it. All persons. And then it goes further down, persons. And it defines two types of persons. So you would think, oh, male and female. That's another subject. No. There's a natural person, which is you and me, flesh, natural. But there's another person created, a juristic person. That's a company, a fake name or a thing. And these are created for commercial purposes. Now, what's the issue with commercial activity? Capitalism, right? In the book, I talk about that to show you how commercial activity meddles, interferes with the functions, the true, pure functions and message of church and religion. It interferes, and hence they kept separate. But why we do not have the successes or see the benefits and the beauty of what church preach about realized in our communities, because you simply can't have the two. Matthew 6 verse 24, you can't serve God and mammon. And other translations, it will tell you directly what mammon is. Money. Now, you have lots of euphemistic responses and justifications from people. Then they run to quotes like, well, didn't God say, give to God what belongs to God and to Caesar what belongs to Caesar? So here is the point then, is there is a distinction between them. Say, give to God what belongs to God. Well, let's ask you then, what are you giving to God then? They say, I gave my life to God. Well, where does your life end then? Where does it end? Where does it begin and where does it end? Does that mean all your intention and your activities? Lord, take my hands and take my feet and let it... No. We're busy with commercialism, and its commercial activity is precisely what contradicts everything in the law of love. Look at all the laws. Please, I dare you, go and find any piece of legislation written by legislators today on love. Good luck. And I mean it. Please, if you find it, share it. Because if they did, if we had such a law, none of the laws that are written today, each and every one of them have to be scrapped.
Correct.
because they serve a commercial purpose, which is advantage to some and disadvantage to others, which is why we have racism redefined and meddling. Hence, those who are feeding from such leadership is why they revel in confusion.
So we only have 5 minutes left, 4 minutes left. I want us to close 4 minutes for the recording, and we can continue.
Sure.
The last, I think it's the 13th chapter, the love solution. I know you've touched on it, but what is the love solution? Kumbaya, let's just love one another and
Love
live
the
happily
solution.
ever. That what?
Love being the solution. If you can take it from any perspective, and love is a very wide definition. If you look at the religious perspective, even where in the book of, I think it's 1 Corinthians, and to the last verse of chapter 13, what it says, even where there's faith, there will remain three things: faith and hope and love. Now, faith will go away and hope will go, and one remains: love. So if love is the all remaining one, it makes it pervasively quite important.
Correct.
So if love is such a good thing, why do we reserve it for some afterlife, the benefits thereof? Because then you have to ask yourself, what are we doing here? Because then I don't want to be here. I'll wait for when love is actually going to be prevalent. Because love, in one of its simplest forms, kindness brings about a relief in people. And I've also shared a study that was shown that where people are kind to one another, if I am kind to you, my well-being actually increase. It shows an increase in my dopamine and serotonin levels in my own bloodstream, right? And that improves my immune system. Not just, it doesn't stop there. The person in receipt of my kindness, exactly the same effects. There's a third effect. Those who witness and become aware of such kindness or live in an environment, in a culture of kindness, well-being on the roof. What do we find today? Why are people depressed? What is their main central concern? I haven't got money, I can't find a job, we're struggling for this, struggling. Do you really think that love will make you struggle? Do you really think kindness will make you struggle? Story of the Samaritan. And Jesus ends and say, go and do likewise. Did that man care about the money? No. Then look at the story of the rich young man. You do all these things, yeah. Okay, go sell everything you got and leave it and follow me. I like the issue of the thing about the 10 Commandments, but this money thing, you want me to say? Nah. And that's why Jesus says, you know what? You see, this is why it's so difficult for a rich person to enter the kingdom of heaven. That's where love reigns. Much easier for a camel to go through a narrow space than that. And then the disciples realized, my God, so who can enter the kingdom then? Who? That question is born out of realizing, yeah, but this is what we all do. We all do this. So none of us, he said, yeah, by people, that's not possible. But by God, everything is possible. And what does God translate that? God is love. So with love, everything's possible. You got an issue, you got a problem, love solves it.
Amen on that one. Thank you so much, Conell, for this part of our event. I don't know if are we still on, and because die kameras is pikdonker. Ons producer sê ons moet asseblief verwys na die boek. Where do we find the book? How much is the book? Etc.
Well, the book, at the moment I've published the book through Amazon. There are several other outlets, information of which I just need to get from my publisher. It's a long list, it's quite exhausting. I made it available on Amazon, so it can be purchased by clicking the link there on Amazon. But it's available on the .co.uk at the moment. The reason why I haven't made it available on co.za, again, commercialism, Jeff Bezos would rob me. I would be down to 40%
Sure.
of that, which means for every 1 million rand I make, he would make 18 million rands. Can you see the disparity in wealth and all that? And if you don't mind me indulging you into the situation in South Africa where they tell you, oh, our national debt is so much and so much, and we need to tax you so much. It's only a percentage point. Well, let me tell you, have you ever asked the question, who do we owe this money to? Oh. You see, it's these, your consent is manufactured and you are manipulated. That question isn't asked. Then the other thing is, you say we live in a democracy, so they say. Theoretically, it sounds brilliant, makes you feel so good. What's the reality? What is the reality is a contradiction pregnant with bipolar mood disorders in our society and dementia. It's themselves that they forget. But let's just go back to that. Shouldn't you be consulted? You're consulted about everything else except the money. Okay? Have you noticed? Oh, we want to make a law about vaccines. We're going to consider putting it into the regulations, the minister, and we publish that. We want to consult you. But you were not consulted about the money, its creation, but we will conveniently call it the South African Reserve Bank. Now you are a South African. Shouldn't anything South African also be yours? Now you're left out. And that is what runs society. That is what runs through the veins of society. And without that, you have no oxygen and you can feel it. Run out of that money, you cannot participate, you cannot breathe in this society. And that fuels the selfishness. So when we talk about you get information through various institutions, such as even the church, telling you, oh, there's a lot of love in society. Well, please do not shy away from this subject, because the reality is something else. That if money is a blessing from God, or any of the material affluence only obtainable by money, and it's a blessing from God, it would be in the hands of everybody. Because based on Jesus' principles, generosity is a no-brainer. Doesn't happen. And that's what makes you now self-preserving. And what you find is that the church, contemporary church, has become self-preserving of its own identity and as an institution to protect itself. So much that they would tell you, give us 10% of that, and because we need to do God's work. God seems to be running out of money all the time. And so I thought to myself, why don't we just go and ask God, give us some money from your generosity? Do you know what? Because God's got nothing to do with that. Amen. Nothing. Let's be absolutely clear. This is a business. If it was truly the business of God, it would only be benefiting our souls and the pastor's soul as well, not his pocket or her pocket. Let's be absolutely clear about this, all right? You see what's going on. It's we're being manipulated and exploited, and the exploitation is really, really rife. Allow yourself to pause and really think about this. This is not about being antichrist. You are in the presence of the antichrist who tells you what to do. He literally tells you, it's okay. you should have the money. You should, God only helps those who helps themselves. I'm trying to help myself to some more money, but you won't let me. No, but you see, that's when the gaslighting comes. Well, if God created money, again, I say to you, it would be in the hands of everybody. God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten rands so that all may live happily ever after. Father Christmas, yeah, I tell my childhood story there. These things are disturbing. I was 7 years old. Goliath comes and tells me, but Father Christmas, he's coming tonight. I said, who is this? I didn't know. And he said, oh, what you do is you just take a plastic bag and you hang it against your wall. I thought, okay. And he says, and then and when you go to sleep, Father Christmas comes and he gives you presents. He gives it to all the children that have been good. Everybody knows it. He says, this is breaking news to me, seriously. And I thought, okay, I'm carrying a plastic sake. ShopRite, it's faded. Obviously, in my household, we keep the bags. So it's been used for lots of things. But hang it there. My oma grootjie, my so aangekyk. And I thought, you seem to know about this because she didn't say anything. It's just like, okay, I noticed that's your bag. I don't know what you're hanging it up for. I don't know. Hang it. Goliath, I believe in this. So I hang the bag. He says, but you have to go to sleep. I mean, you expecting me to sleep when there's some big thing coming. I've never known. Oh, I want to see this. I waited hours. I couldn't hold it anymore. Next thing, I opened my eyes and straight to the wall. The bag is still there. Oh, but it looks like there's something in it. Seriously, I went there. You'll understand why she brought me stokkie lekkers today. So it was that string of red stokkie lekkers was in there. And then there was small toy cars and guns. No, just guns. That's
Toy guns.
Toy guns. I was so excited. I thought, you guys know what I took the bag and I just in my hand and I ran like out of the gate and Goliath is up there. Just Goliath. And they said, Pasi! Pasi was my name. And I looked and I, wait a minute. And my running turned into. And I thought, and he had a massive yellow car, big toy car, sat in it. 4 wheels, that caught my attention, and a steering wheel. And then you could walk yourself in it. And I saw his feet at the bottom. I said, and Father Christmas is megebring. He said, no. How did he determine that I should? It just didn't make sense, and I really wanted to talk to Father Christmas. I said, nee, I blame Noordpool. Where is that? Seriously, it bothered me. It really bothered me. And says, he only comes around once a year, and if you've been good. And I thought, so now I have to suppress that I'm upset? You didn't even consult me on this. How does this work? Seriously. And I didn't know. So I missed out on 6 years of this guy coming around, didn't hang a plastic bag, and now on the first time, you cheat me. And you're in the North Pole, which I don't know where it is. And you can't talk to him. He only comes when you're asleep. I still, to this day, I can't speak to him. I'm upset. So it's these stories, and I hang on to this with a lot of hope. You know what I mean? The reason why I came out of Joburg, one of the motivating factors that I finally decided, okay, I'm going back to Beaufort West because I really complained. I wanted to go to the Xhosa school. My dad jumped onto the phone. Kom huis toe, dan veel BMX koop. The red one, yeah, with the rooi tires. Yeah, and with the sponsors, the BMX cover thing. I saw the whole package, man. I was in. Still waiting for it. These are the things that are locked in, you know what I mean? And I thought, you said it, bruv. You promised. I believed it. It's a disappointment. And this disappointment goes to the extent that what we see today in school, in kindergarten, if we want to call it, that when the children are playing, the teachers come in. Gershwin and John Clay fighting over this toy. No. People, Johnny, you could be a share. Leer the fella. What a beautiful thing to teach, right? Share. Now, before my turn. So, where do they come on this? They say, oh, we're teaching you to ensure that we are, as children, become these adults of the future. So you'd imagine, can you blame children to believe that that's what the world is out there? When you get out there, you realize this thing of sharing doesn't work. So where do they get this information? They lied to you. You told me that as long as I share, everybody will be happy. It doesn't work like that. So where do you come from? So there is a contradiction. So you'd imagine that them teaching me know what they're talking about. It's double standards, man. It's double standards. They are participating in the contrary, teaching me that sharing is good. And when I want to do that as an adult, I realize I'm going to run out of money if I keep sharing with you. Yeah. So I'm now having to think, no, Lauren, jy moet maar nog gaan kyk waar jy gaan kry. Ek is jammer. And now I am then saddled with the moral burden because I've now gone against what I believe. And that's why I left the church. Because I cannot, in all truth and honesty, stand here and talk to people about the goodness and kindness of Jesus when I don't even have Jesus in my life. I keep saying to people, they say, have you found Jesus? And say, I didn't know he's lost. Didn't know. I don't think he's lost. I think Jesus has become a convenience that we keep in our back pocket, reserved for Sundays and Wednesdays when we hold service, and he only lives there. So this is what I said. And you can ask those who attended service where I, as a priest, I said to them, two things. You need to take Jesus out of here, out of this, with you. And some of you, if not all of you, need to stop coming to church. Because which part of the sermon that you have learned isn't good enough to apply? It's time to graduate, get out and practice. In fact, one church service, it's only for those who have never been to church, the service. Come and learn that, now go and practice it. It's sufficient. But you know why it's insufficient or it doesn't work? Because the actual system that we participate in is the opposing norm. So we talk in favor of one thing, but we're doing the other thing. So, hence, and I put it there, and I think these things needs to be said. It appears that a church sermon is just another justified excuse to absolve us from the sins we supposedly can't avoid. Actually, we can. Stop commercialism and start practicing kindness. And whilst we are at it, we can start even using Mammon's things against Mammon. Right? Start giving to people and start going to businesses that are supposedly can't avoid. Actually, we can. Stop commercialism and start practicing kindness. And whilst we are at it, we can start even using Mammon's things against Mammon. Right? Start giving to people and start going to to businesses that are operating for profit and ask them, what can you do to help certain people? But set the example. So if you want to see a difference in this world, be the difference. I don't fall for persons, people in government structures talking. I'm more concerned in what you're doing. Actions does actually speak louder than words.
Absolutely.
It actually does.